Okay, welcome to this section 5 A-level religious studies anthology work on Rahula, the Bodhisattva ideal in Buddhism. Let's read it before we analyze it. But the state of a Stravaka or Prakya Buddha is inferior to that of a Bodhisattva. This is quite in keeping with the Theravada tradition, which too holds that one may become a Bodhisattva and attain the state of a fully enlightened Buddha. But if one cannot, one may attain the state of a Prakya Buddha or a Stravaka, according to one's capacity. These three states may be considered as three attainments on the same path. In fact, the Santanimimarakana Sutra, Mahayana Sutra, clearly says the Stravakyana and the Mahayana constitute one yana, Eka yana, and that they are not two different and distinct vehicles. Okay, let's go. So, what is a Stravaka? But the state of a Stravaka. Well, we've looked a little bit at this. Buswell again says it's a name given to the Mahayana to early disciples who heard the teachings of the Buddha and practiced them and sought to become worthy ones, arhats. Like Hinayana, the term has a derogatory flavor, although in this case less pronounced. Since the hearers are seen by the Mahayana as interested only in their personal salvation, in contrast to the more altruistic path of the Bodhisattva yana, which aims at universal liberation. The term frequently occurs in Mahayana threefold classification of the Stravakas, the Prakya Buddhas, and the Bodhisattvas, which represent the three main types of religious aspirant. So what then is a Prakya Buddha? Again, a private or solitary Buddha, one who remains in seclusion, does not teach the Dharma to others. In this way, the Prakya Buddha differs from the perfectly enlightened Buddha, or Samyak Sambuddha. The latter is thought to be superior by virtue of the compassionate concern that motivates him to teach the path to liberation to others. Mahayana sources distinguish the vehicle of the Prakya Buddhas as the one of the three different paths to salvation. The other two vehicles are the hearers, the Stravakayana, as followed by the Arhats, the vehicle of the Bodhisattvas. The Bodhisattva yana, which is regarded as the highest, certainly by Yogacara. How far is Rahula's statement that a Sangha thinks Stravaka and Prakyana are both inferior to the Bodhisattva inaccurate? And of this phrase, they are inferior. Well, Rahula is again only partially correct in his reading, his account of a Sangha's Yogacara Mahayana teaching. Yes, it's true that the kind of religious inclusivist view would be the Bodhisattva is the best. However, this is to deny both the two-truth doctrine and especially the Trikaya doctrine that Basham would note a Sangha had a big part in developing. On Trikaya, all our states are but merely deluded, dualistic thinking, but that all have Buddha nature yet to be discovered. So in a sense, they're not really inferior. Again, what is a bodhisattva? To that of a bodhisattva. Anyone who's made the resolution, the vow, number one, to become a Buddha. In Mahayana Buddhism, bodhisattva refers to anyone who's generated bodhicitta, a spontaneous wish and a compassionate mind to attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Sounds like Shanti Deva's version of the vow. A sentient being or sattva that develops bodhi or enlightenment, thus possessing bodhisattva psyche, described as those who work to develop and exemplify the loving kindness, metta, compassion, karuna, empathetic joy, mudita, and equanimity, upekkha. These four are called the four divine abodes, or the Brahma Vihara, the limitables. So is it really quite in keeping? This is quite in keeping with the Theravada, which too, really? No, it's not. This is assuming the tradition of Theravada is original Buddhism and that it goes all the way back to the Buddha. There wasn't anything to be in keeping quite with. But does Rahula accurately define the goal of Mahayana Buddhist teaching and that it's exactly the same as Theravada? That one may become a bodhisattva and attain the state of a fully enlightened Buddha? No, it's not really true that Theravada teach you can become a bodhisattva and attain. In Theravada, bodhisattva came to denote the kings of Sri Lanka. It was a special elite name. Or the historical Buddha, neither of which certainly ordinary Buddhists didn't aim for, and even monks didn't aim for. They aimed to become arhats. They didn't aim to become king of Sri Lanka, and they didn't need to discover it without hearing from the Theras, the elders, what they'd already learned. So you could discover the Theravada teachings like the Buddha would, because they're believed to be natural laws, and then teach others as an enlightened Buddha would. But this is an arduous and impossible goal. If this is just a reference to being compassionate, then yes, they can be that, but it really isn't, is it? Is Rahula's statement, if one cannot, one may attain the state for Prakya Buddha or a Stravaka, really the case? One may attain the state of a Prakya Buddha or a Stravaka. So, not a Bodhisattva, a Prakya Buddha, Stravaka, really the case? Again, one may, or one cannot, one may attain, is the sectarian supernatural polemic term, here loaded with Theravada assumptions which Mahayana would deny. So the Mahayana would say, if you are a bodhisattva, if you can't become a bodhisattva, can you become a Prakya Buddha Stravaka? Not really, you see. His narration of Yogacara text, the Yoga Bhumisatra, sequence of yanas we've just read about, or collections of bhumis here, while perhaps is lacking in comment, has undertones of Theravada hostility to the Mahayana soteriology. While Theravada do think these paths are equal in approach, clearly the Stravaka is the preferred one. Who is Rahula trying to persuade here? Is it the Mahayana follower? Doesn't seem like any Mahayana would really believe what he's saying. Is he trying to get the secular person to believe what he's saying? Or is he really preaching to the choir, trying to tell fellow Theravadins that their beliefs are as good as the Mahayana? Probably some of all of them, and if I had to guess, more of the latter. What are the three attainments, and what does it mean to say they are on the same path? These three states may be considered as three attainments on the same path. The same path here is this key inclusivist at best phrase, or is it a hidden exclusivist view? And he's been building up to this. The question here is the true or better effective way of the Buddha or salvation? And what is it? Mahayana refer to this as Buddhayana, and we've talked about that. The Rahula believes that the Stravaka or the Theravada claims to be original Buddhism, and the succession of Theravada teaching goes all the way back to the Buddha. And this is what the Buddha taught, that the best way is to listen to his teaching, the teaching of the Theras that is passed on. Then you can get to Nibbana. And really that's what Mahayana believe as well. Well, do they? Doesn't seem so. While the same or one path teaching for Mahayana, Ekayana, is the opposite. It's saying the Ekayana teaching is really saying there is only one true path, and it's the Mahayana path. Whereas Theravada, according to Rahula, is saying there is only one real path, and it's the Theravada path. Now, Theravada would normally just reject Rahula here as the teaching of Theravada, Mahayana would Rahula's giving would just be rejected as being clever words, nothing more. He will go on to argue that yes, there is only one path, and that is he's going to force that on Mahayana, telling you Mahayana there's only one path, you've got to believe it, and in fact you are deluded or mistaken if you think it's to become it's your idea. So this inclusivism is better than exclusivism of the doctrine of salvation. The only proper way to be rightly orientated is our way. And you need to kind of deconstruct Mr. Mahayana and get on board with becoming a monk and doing all those things. So what does Ekayana mean, and why is Rahula using the idea? So this idea of Ekayana, we have it right at the bottom here. Ekayana, it's been mentioned a couple of times. There is one yana. Mahayana constitutes one yana. Keown, in his Dictionary of Buddhism, says the one way or vehicle, a concept found in certain Mahayana texts, such as the Lotus Sutra, which teaches there, here we are again, three ways: Trayana, Stravakayana, Prakya Buddhayana, and the Bodhisattvayana, taught by the Buddha. All converge in single Buddhayana. This view also teaches that the first two ways were mainly taught as skillful means. That's not interesting. Upya Kujala, and that the Bodhisattvayana is actually identical to a single Buddhayana. The concept is taught in the Lotus Sutra in the famous parable of the children trapped in the burning house, whose father rescues them with promises of various kinds of pleasing carts, but then rewards them all with the same magnificent cart once they are safe. The great vehicle. I wonder what religion is called the great vehicle. Ian, what is happening? Rahula is setting up a polemical point about true doctrine, true soteriology, true salvation, and it's not the Mahayana teaching about Trikaya, Buddha nature, and especially the Yogacara teaching, of which the Sanhim Manjakana Sutra teaches, which will become clear in the following passages. While he accepts the language of the text, he's changing the meaning. Wow, there's a thing for our day. People who use words but change the meaning and say the words mean something else than what you think they mean, Mr.